and share my screen. All right. So I guess the first thing we'll do is we'll go over this OpenCutList. So as Kat said, this is an extension. So what you would do is you would go to Extension Warehouse, and then I'm just going to type in cut list here. And there are actually several extensions that are available. One thing to look at is how many views they each have. This one, OpenCutList, has a lot more views than anybody, and it's free. So that's the one that I downloaded and tried. And there's also a bunch of videos online to show how to use it. So I think that's probably a solid choice amongst all these other ones, but I did not look at any of the other ones. So when you download this, I'm sorry, I kind of glossed over that. So if you click on one of these, all you really have to do is hit this install button, and SketchUp does all the rest. What I got after I installed it was this little window on my screen. So if you want this in your toolbar, all you have to do is drag this up into your toolbar and stick it wherever in your toolbar you want it. So then if you click on it, that starts OpenCutList, and there's this little window. This, I found the most challenging part of the program is dealing with this window, but this maximize, minimize will open and close it up a little bit. But if you happen to do something like this, where you minimize it here, it goes down to the lower left corner, and then just click on this little SketchUp icon and do a restore, and that'll bring it back up here. I use dual monitors, and several times I've lost this window and had no idea where it went. The nice thing is if you minimize your SketchUp and restore that, it will come right back up. So that's one little pointer that I learned. Anyway, so what this does is it uses, these are the materials that I've got in the model. So it picks up on that automatically. And it wants to equate different materials that you fix to your parts to actual physical materials in the cut list. And to do that, I've already configured these, but the way you would do that is click on that little pencil right there. And then really the important thing is type is not going to be set. It's going to be undefined initially. So you've got to go in, and whatever that material is, you've got to say what it really is in real life, whether it's solid wood or sheet goods or what have you. So that's one thing you have to do. Another thing, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. This works only with components. It doesn't work with groups. So let's see. In this mod, this is the model that I started with this morning. And I realized a couple of things. One, I haven't named any of my components, which I generally don't do, but this OpenCutList is much more useful if you name your components. And the second thing is I've got a bunch of groups in here. So I'm not going to go through and rename all these components in front of you, but I will show you how to find them, how to figure out what they are, and how to rename them. So I think what I would do is I'd probably start with, like, for instance, just limiting the model down to one thing. Like I'm just looking at the face frame, and I've got my outliner opened up. If your outliner doesn't show up, go to Window, Outliner on the Mac, or on Windows, go to your default tray, and then go down to Outliner and make sure that's checked. So if that's checked, this window will show you a list of all the components and groups in your model. You can tell a component from a group in that a group here has a solid square next to it, and a component has 4 little squares to the left of it. if they happen to be named. If they're unnamed, it'll say component and a number. So now that I have just the face frame shown in the model, now when I click in the outliner, you see how when I click on the different components here in the outliner, I'm seeing a blue rectangle. I'm actually selecting the component in the model. So that way I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm labeling here. And if I go up to my entity info box, I'll also see that that's a solid component. There's 3 in the model. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click on this and call this a face frame style. Oops. Yeah. So I'm renaming it right there in the outliner. And you can see what's happened here is that shows up in the instance. I don't want to do that. So I'm actually going to undo that. What I want is I want to name the definition. And you'll see that, you see how there are 3 component 3s down here? They're instances of the same component. So an instance is a copy. I don't want to name each particular instance. Like I could say, this is the left-hand style and this is the right-hand style. Instead, I'm just going to call this a style in the definition field. And when I tab out of that field, you'll see that all 3 of these guys got named as style. Or if I want to rename it and say face frame style, I can do that. So it doesn't really take that long because a lot of these components are copies of one another. So, you know, very quickly, like here's a pretty wide rail. I'll go ahead and change that. So component number 14, I'm changing the definition in the entity info box, and I'll call that face frame rail sink cab. And when I tab out of that field, you can see down here, I've renamed 3 of them at once. So basically, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. If I knew we were going to use this OpenCutList in the beginning, I would have named all my components while making them. So, you know, it kind of steered you in the wrong direction there. But if you want to go through this exercise, it's, you know, it's a little tedious, but I would recommend just doing it on new models to start with. But anyway, so that's one thing you got to do. You got to name your components.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Does it matter, and maybe I'm not seeing it, like the left and right style actually have different mortises, right? They're mirror images.
Yeah, in the drawers we did, in the face frame, we didn't do any joinery.
Oh, we didn't. Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
I was just imagining it then. Okay.
And you can do mirror imaging of components and still have the same component. That would all be the same component. So yeah, like in the drawer fronts, oops, in the door front. Let's see here. Yeah, like for instance, this, what's going on here? This isn't good. I'm not able to select anything. Huh. Well, what I was trying to do is select one of these styles to show you that, you know, all 4 of these are essentially the same, even though they're mirror imaged.
Okay.
I don't know why I can't select anything in this model. That's weird. So anyway, I've got a model here that I've already renamed everything. So if you look over here in the outliner, I've got every component named and every group converted to a component. It's pretty easy to convert a group to a component. Like if I make just a little box here, and let's say I made that into a component, a group initially. If I come back and at a later time, I want to make that into a component, I can just right click on it and make component, and now it's a component. So that conversion is pretty easy to go from groups to components, but only components are going to show up in this open cut list. So then the next thing you do is you would assign materials to this model so that every instance of finished plywood has the same material, or every piece of solid hardwood has the same material. And then what OpenCutList is going to do is it's going to pick up on these different materials that you use. And then you're able to go in and say, okay, this is solid wood. Or on the plywood, you can say, this is a sheet good. Now, once you've done that, then you can go on to your parts. And if I do a generate here, let's see. Okay. So now I've got all of the parts. These are the names that I named my component, but OpenCutList is automatically put a letter in front of each one. It figures out the quantity that's in the model, and it's also got the length, width, and thickness. So this is great just as is.
Ooh.
Yeah. But to go beyond that, if you're cutting plywood, this is the really interesting thing. You can actually generate a cutting diagram. So if I click on this cutting diagram thing, and I do a generate, now you're getting the actual layout of a 4x8 sheet of plywood, efficiently cut. And I think it even orients itself so that the grain is proper. So it's really pretty cool. And if I click on this, you can see it in the model. So I'm clicking on
That's amazing.
D here. And so this is showing, this bottom shelf. So this is a really handy little thing, and it's pretty easy to use. I mean, the only caveats are you got to name all your components, or you should anyway. And you've got to use materials, like every finished piece of plywood should have the same material. Every, piece of hardwood should have a different but same material. And then in these materials, you just assign what's what. So it's, yep.
Is there, I mean, I can't imagine it isn't, but I'm not noticing like a kerf or anything if it's accounting for that.
There is. You can, where is that? There's a way that you can put in extra.
I think I saw it back there.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like
an
an eighth of an
oversized.
inch.
Yeah, you can put, I don't know if it was oversized or what. So I guess if I oversize the length and width by 1/2 inch and then apply that, then when you generate your parts, it knows to add a little bit of extra width to it. So you can add a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch or whatever.
I think like if you scroll up, it's accounting for it already. It says blade thickness
Yeah, there you go.
settings.
Yeah, there is a place to put blade thickness in. I did see that. Yep.
Right
I think-
on.
I think this is in addition to blade thickness. You can say, I want extra material. In fact, I think you see it right here as you hover over it.
Yeah, that looks like so you can square your sheet before you start.
Yeah, yep. So this is pretty good. I mean, it seems to work, and the price is right. The only thing I don't like about it is you end up losing this window sometimes, but like I said, it's usually down in the lower left corner. And if you just totally lose it, just minimize SketchUp and restore SketchUp and it will come back. So if we had done the right thing in the beginning and labeled all our components and used just components instead of components and groups, and even used the materials appropriately, it would have been a nice thing to have here. It's just a pain in the ass going back to do it right now. Okay, so let's see. Another thing that was asked was how to do crown molding. So here is a model that I put it in, and we're going to start with, so this was our first model, going back to the first class. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw some quick walls around here. Let me select these guys and I'll move these up, say 6 feet, and just going to get a rectangle down here, make a floor. And of course, group it. So triple click, make group. Now what I think I'll do is I'll just double click with my tape measure here just to see where we're at here. So I think I want to pull this out a little bit more. All right, let me just make a quick. Oops. A wall right in the middle of our cabinet. So I'm just trying to make a corner here. And things are not going really well. Tell you what, I'm going to go back into this model and I'm just going to erase all this stuff that I put in here. All right, so here are our cabinets and a wall behind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a riser here. So I'm going to draw a rectangle on the top of our face frame and then pull that straight up, say 3 inches. And then I'll double click on that, make this into a component. And then I'm going to make another one here. So I'm going to make a rectangle on top of this closed component. And I'm going to use that little trick here. It's like I can snap to the bottom here, but I can't set my 3/4 inch width. So I know the height of the rectangle that I want, which shows up as 3 inches in my dimension. So I'll just type in comma to accept that 3 inches and then 3/4. So that gives us the proper size. Okay. Now I'll triple click on this and I'll make this a component. So let's say we want a nice mitered corner here. An easy way to do that is I'm going to double click, open up this component, press L for line, start in this corner, click, and then just go to that other piece of 3/4 inch. And that's going to define a 45-degree angle. So I'll click there, press P for push pull, push that down all the way, and then right click and close my component. And then I'm going to double click on this one, pull this all the way to the edge. And now I've got to cut the opposite miter out of this piece. So I've actually got a line here that I can just kind of trace over. So I'm going to click here and here with the line tool, and then I'll press P and go down to the bottom. So that's a quick and dirty way to get a nice mitered corner there. So now we want to get some a crown molding profile. So you could draw it, or you can go out to the 3D warehouse and try to find one. So I'm going to my components window, and then I'm clicking in this field that's going to let me search in the 3D warehouse. So I'm going to search for crown molding profile. And there was one in here that was gigantically big. That's the one I want to get. Oh, here it is. Okay. There it is. Now the description says that it's 5-inch crown molding profile. So, okay, great. I download that directly into the SketchUp model. And then I take a look at the crown molding and it's gigantic. And this is the kind of crap you see in the 3D warehouse all the time. So anyway, that's not necessarily a big problem. And it allows us to get this in position a little bit easier. So I'm going to go to my rotate tool and I'm going to start here in this corner. I'm going to hit the up arrow. I'm going to hit the left arrow. So I'm on green. You see, I've got a green protractor now. So I'm going to click in that corner and then I'm going to go along this line, click a second time. That basically forms the axis that we're rotating on. And then I'm going to rotate this up, type in 90 and press enter. So there's our giant profile. So now let's do a move. So I hit M for move. I'm just going to move it over here on the top of our wall. And now I want to show you how you can scale stuff accurately. There's really a couple of different ways you can scale. This is the scale tool. So if I click on this, I get these handles, and this profile is of infinite thinness. I mean, it has no thickness to it. So you're just going to get these 6, 8 handles around the outside. I can just push one of these or pull, but I'm distorting the profile. So I'm going to undo that. I can also do this, which is keeping the aspect ratio of the profile, but I don't really know what size I'm getting if I do that. And if you look down in the value control box in the lower right corner, you'll see a scale setting. So basically, I could type a number in, but that doesn't mean much to me either. So I'm going to undo that. What I'm going to do here is if I really want the profile, say, to be 5 inches wide and 5 inches tall, another thing you can do with scale is type in a number, but put inches after that, a double quote after that. So if I click here and move this and then type in 5 inches, oops, I guess I didn't type in 5. Let me try that again. 5 inches. Oh, come on. Okay, so I'm clicking, I'm typing in 5 inches and pressing enter. Okay, so I had to click first. So now let me do it in the other direction. So I'm going to pull this down and I'm also going to click and then type in 5 inches and enter. So now this is 5 inches in depth and in height very accurately. So that's I think the most useful way to use the scale tool. So now we have a profile that we can actually move and put it, kind of where we want to have it. So I'm against the wall, I'm moving it straight down, then I'm clicking a second time and moving it straight in. Okay, so now that's something we can use the follow me tool to actually generate this crown molding. And I guess really what we probably want to do is move this again so that it's touching the ceiling essentially. Okay, so remember we have to put a path in. And I think the last time I showed you, you can draw a path with the pencil tool like this, and then draw another line like this, and then select both lines, and that's going to be our path. But one of the things that I realized is that path does not have to be right where the profile is. And in fact, if it is, you kind of lose track of the path. I can put that path anywhere. I'm gonna, just as an example here, I'm gonna do a line here along the red axis, and then another line along the green axis. Oops, like that. Oops, I didn't get quite all the way to the wall. I do want to go all the way to the wall. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is that this path that I'm about to select does not have to be the path that the object moves along. There's a relationship between where the object is, where the profile is, and the path, and that distance between the profile and the path is going to be maintained. So now when I go to the Follow Me tool, and I actually want to open this thing up. So this came in as a group. So I double clicked, I opened it up, and now I have to go back. Well, you know what? No, it came in as a group and I need to explode it. So I click on it, right click, explode. So now it's on group geometry. And that allows me to come down here and select this path. So I'm shift clicking on the path. And now when I get the Follow Me tool and hover over the profile, it still did the right thing, even though the path is down here. So I kind of prefer that method in that, you know, if you put the path right where you're gonna do the crown molding, you're gonna lose track of those lines. At least now it's very apparent that I have these lines that I want to delete and get them out of the model. So I just wanted to show you that. Another thing is that, you know, this kind of detailed profile has a bunch of lines in it that I guess just represent where the guy put multiple curves in his profile. If I go to the Erase tool and I hold down the Control key and I drag through those lines, I can actually soften those lines. I got one a little one extra there. Okay. So those lines are essentially still in the model, but that looks a whole lot better without all those extra lines there. Okay. So now I'm going to triple click on this, right click, and make this a component. And then if I needed to move this up and down, let's say our walls are a little taller here. And if I wanted to move this up to the ceiling, I can just click on this, grab an edge, move this up. And then we'd have to do the same thing for these little risers. Move the riser up a little bit. So anyway, did that cover what, was it John who wanted the crown molding?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
I tried it actually on the first cabinet, this cabinet that we did. And my biggest issue I had was sizing, like scaling the profiles I found.
Yeah.
And then the other issue I had was rotating it, like getting it rotated in the correct orientation. I was trying to rotate from move, which I think, I don't know if I was doing it a little wrong, but it seems like maybe just using the rotate tool might be a little easier.
Yeah, it is, especially, I mean, you can do certain things with the move, with the rotate that's built into the move tool, but yeah, if you want to do something a little bit trickier, it's probably best to use the rotate tool. Yep. All right. And then of course you could get your bucket tool. I'm going to hold down the Alt key to get my eyedropper and then just finish this off in the right colors. So
for the cut list,
Yep.
you did it groups by materials.
Yep.
Does it have to be a material, or can you do a color? And
You can do a color. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And I didn't want to sacrifice the look, you know, like in this case, we got plywood here and we got hardwood here. So one trick around that is if you don't want to, set this to different colors or different materials, you could go in to your material and just edit it and make another copy of it so that the texture is the same, but the name would be different. For instance, if I, this is wood bamboo, if I hit the little circle plus here, I'm making a new material. I'm just going to call this bamboo number 2. So that now is a separate material, even though it shows up the same on the screen. So that separate material, bamboo number 2, could be, your solid wood pieces, and the original bamboo could be your plywood pieces, for cut list. So it doesn't have to look different, but it has to be a different name.
Gotcha. Okay. That's
All right.
perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Let's see, what's next? All right, so if we get into layout, somebody asked how to do a kind of a detailed blow up like this in layout. And this is kind of cool. It's not exactly built into the software, but I'll show you how to do it. I'm just going to delete what's here. So basically, each one of these things that I'm clicking on right now are viewports. Those are all independent views into your SketchUp model. So if I want to make a detail of this joinery right here, I can click on a viewport, hold down the control key, drag this over. I'm copying the viewport. Okay. So now I can make this a bigger size. I can change its scale. I could change the scene or anything. In this case, I want the same view of this, but I do want a different scale. So I'm going to click on the viewport and I'll go into the SketchUp model window. And let's see, here are my scales. So I'll make that a much bigger scale. And sometimes you lose, you change the scale and you lose the object inside there. So let me try that again. I'm gonna do it over here. I'm gonna right click on it and I can change the scale by right clicking. And okay, here's a bigger scale. I'm gonna open up my viewport window just so that when I do a bigger scale, I'm not gonna lose this object. So I'm gonna right click, go to scale and go to 3 inch equals 1 foot. Okay. And I can move this viewport around. So I'm going to do that, move that back on the screen and open the viewport up because I really want to see the left side of that and close down this right side. I'll get this a little tighter to the actual SketchUp object. All right. So that's a blow up of this joinery over here. But if you want to make this, kind of look like that zoom bubble that I showed initially, what you would do is you can just go to any of these drawing objects. So I'm going to go to circle and I'm going to start right here and draw a circle like that. Okay, so now the circle is just like any other drawing object in Outlook. I can go to my shape style and I can do a fill. Okay, I can do a stroke. Stroke is going to be what's around the outside of it. Oops. So this is turning our stroke on. And I can change the thickness of the stroke. So if I go to, see it says 1/2 point. So if I set that to 2 points, now we've got a thick line around it. But this object is obliterating what's below it. I can show you that it's still there. Okay, so we can use an object as essentially as a clipping mask so that this viewport would only show up inside this circle. So the way to do that is to click on the drawing object, shift click on the viewport, and then right click and go down to create clipping mask. And now it clipped the viewport to the drawing object. Now, for some reason, when you do that, I lost the little ring around the outside. So I'm going to go back to stroke and turn that on. I'll change that to 2 point. Okay. So that's the hardest part. So now I'm going to do another circle over here. I'll start in the same corner and I'll try to make it about the same size, relative to the scale. But this time I don't want the middle of this filled at all. So I'm going to click on this and I'll go up to fill. I'll turn fill off. So now all we really have to do are like some arrows here. So I'm going to go to my line tool and I'll draw a line straight down and then straight over to here and hit escape. And if I go to my select tool and click on this line, one of the things you can do is you can have an arrow. This would be an end arrow because I started drawing here. So this is the end of the line over here by the big circle. So if I go to an arrow here, it's going to show up on that side of the line. So it's kind of a trick. It's not exactly built-in feature, but somebody asked how to do that. All right. Designing.
Can you
Sure, go
move
ahead.
that wherever you want now? That
Yep.
that circle cut out? Okay.
Yeah, so I guess what you'd have to do, let's see, is if we move this, see what happens. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you can. And then if you wanted to unmask this, I think you right click on it and you release clipping mask. So really the key here is I couldn't find this anywhere in the program when I was looking today, but if I right click on this, you don't see it. The key is you've got to have a drawing object selected and a viewport selected. And then when you right click, you'll see this create clipping mask. Otherwise it's not there. So, yep.
Hey, Ben.
Yep.
I guess I was under the assumption I really love what you did here, but I was also curious, what about if we wanted to like explode to show the mortises around the, like, is there a simple way to do that where you could like explode the drawer, even that one in the top left corner, so that you would like see the 4 parts exploded out a little ways? Like, would you just grab each part and kind of move them out to do that?
Yeah, that's, I'm trying to think of a couple different ways. I mean, you could.
I mean, I remember we did that in the timber frame one, just to
Yep.
show like the mortise and tenon and pegs and everything, but
Right. I mean, you could do it in the SketchUp model, but keep in mind when you move something in the SketchUp model, that's where it's going to be.
right. So you would do the, I think I'm remembering now, you would do the solid piece, copy it, and then kind of pull everything apart, and then
Right.
and then pull those 2 into layout as separate viewports. And that way it would show the together one and the exploded one or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know of a good way of doing it. I mean, an easy way of doing it. I mean, you could reproduce your model in a different area of the model and then spread those parts apart and then put it in layout. Or I guess you could, well, what this does is it hides everything but a single piece in the SketchUp view. So I guess you could take that approach because you can also, rotate these things. So, you could do something like that where you show individual parts and then just rotate them within layout to kind of simulate that exploded view. But again, no automated way, unless there may be a plugin that does it in an automated way. But I have not seen that.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so corner cabinet. This actually was a little bit more challenging than I thought it would be. So what I started with was a single cabinet. And I think it'd be handy to have a floor here in this case. So I'm just navigating to the bottom of the cabinet and I'm hitting R for rectangle. And I'm just going to start with a very small floor. So I'll push this down, say 4 inches, and then I can kind of pull it out any direction that I need it in. So I think the essential part of this is to get a couple of other cabinets in place and then kind of draw in between those cabinets, I think is the way I would do it. Let me go ahead and group this. Okay, so I want to copy everything in this cabinet. So if I do a careful job of selecting from left to right, remember left to right selection, I have to, in order to select something, it has to be totally within the rectangle that I'm drawing. Since this floor is not within there, I'm getting everything but the floor here. And I think at this point, I'm going to go ahead and right click on that and make that a group. It just makes it easier for me to reproduce this and move it around the screen. So we've got a drawing here that's in your, here it is here, that's in the Google Drive folder of a corner cabinet. And I think really the only important dimension here is kind of this opening right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go along with that, 12 3/4. So, you know, these doors are kind of pivoted off of one side and hinged together in the middle. And then we'll go ahead and put a Lazy Susan in the middle of this. All of the other dimensions are kind of generated from the other cabinets, the depth and the height of the cabinet. So I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'll press M for move, tap Control or Option for copying it. And I'm going to do it based on the face frame here. So I'm going to start right here on the face frame and move this copy so that it's butted right up there. And now I'm going to move this again, a second time along the green axis. And then I'm going to type in 12 3/4 and press enter. So that gave me the 12 3/4 spacing in one direction. And now if I do a careful job of rotating this and use this vertical line right here as my axis of rotation, then I can move the cabinet in a second direction, in a perpendicular direction, 12 3/4 also. So I'm going to get my rotate tool and I'm going to hover over this corner of the face frame. So rotate is kind of a 3-click operation. The first click is establishing kind of the plane that the rotation protractor is on. So I want it on blue. So I'm going to click and then I'm moving in one direction and I click a second time and then I rotate. And that should be 90 degrees and I click a third time. Okay. So if I did this right and I get my my tape measure tool and I double click on here, you should see that this dotted line should intersect with the face frame right there, and it does. So now I'm in the right position, except for the fact that I want to go in this direction, 12 3/4. So I'm going to hit M for move, start on the face frame again, click, and then now I'm along the red axis, and I'm going to type in 12 3/4 and press enter. So that should be the proper, the proper distance between these two cabinets. It looks kind of odd right now, and it's a big corner because these are deep cabinets. So now I just want to confirm that. So I'm going to get my rectangle tool, and I'm going to start on this edge of the cabinet and go over to this edge. So I've just made a rectangle. It's kind of the outline of that corner cabinet. And I'll press T for tape. and measure from here to here. It's 43 inches. I'll hit escape and then click here, hover here, and that's also 43 inches. So I'm pretty confident that I've got the right setup here. So I'm just going to undo that rectangle. So I think what I would start with here is we already have a bunch of parts that we can reuse. Same as what we did for the other cabinets. I don't want to start redrawing sides if I've already got a side that I can use. So remember that we put rabbits in the sides, in the backs of these side pieces. So instead of copying this piece over, I'm going to copy the opposite piece. But remember that I made these two guys groups, okay? So I don't want them groups anymore, because anytime I'd have to go in and copy a component inside this, I'd have to double click to open the group, then click on the component and copy it and get it outside of the group. That's going to be a big hassle. So instead, I'm going to single click on this, right click and explode it. So the group is no longer there. I just essentially deleted the group, but everything that's inside that group is now on the top level and I can get right at it. Same thing here. I'll click on it, right click and explode. The group is now history. Okay, but it's going to come back at the end. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with nested groups in the end. Okay, so now I want a side panel. I don't want to copy this one. I want to copy this one specifically because it's got the rabbit set up in the right direction already. So I'm going to hit M for move, tap controller option, move this over, and you can see that I actually want to go 1/4 of an inch beyond that face frame. So I just aligned it to the edge of the face frame. And then I'm going to do my second click, my second move, and type in 1/4, because there's going to be another face frame that bridges that gap right there. Okay, and you can see that we've got this rabbit in the right spot now. So I'm going to do the same trick over here. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to move that, make a copy of it, move it along here. I'll just butt it up against the other side and then come around to the face frame side, and we're going to move this right to there and then another 1/4 inch beyond it and click a second time. Okay. So I think the next thing I would do is to do the bottom shelf here. So our bottom shelves were, the bottom of our bottom shelves were aligned to this notch for our kick plate. So I think that's where I would start. I'm going to get a rectangle here, start there, and go across to this side. And you can see I'm going right up to that rabbit, which is good. So we're not going to have to resize that later on. Now, if I look in my dimensions, I can see that it's got something that's approximately 7/8, 29. So 29 is the length of that piece. I want that. I don't have to retype that. So I can type in 3/4, comma, and press enter. Now, there's no problem again in typing in the 29 if you want to do that too. Okay, so now I get my press pull, and I'm going to press pull this out, and I'm going to align it to this rabbit right here. Okay. So now the tricky part is, how do we, I don't want to pull this whole thing out because there's going to be, essentially a cutaway for these doors. I think what I would do is I would use the face frame to determine where that cut's going to be. So if I hit T for tape and I hover over the edge of the face frame right here and double click, that's projecting a line over to where I want to put a vertical line in this shelf. This shelf right here is not grouped. It's all open geometry right now. So I can hit my line tool, go right to where that, that reference line appears and come straight up. And now if I hit P for press pull, I can pull this independently from the other side. And I'm going to go all the way to my side and click there. And then I'm going to push this in and align it with the side of the corner cabinet. So we have, oh, and I have to do that over here too. So I'm going to push this back. So P for press pull, push this back to the edge of our side. So now if we did that right, if I get my tape measure tool, this distance from here to here, 12.5, should be the same as this distance from here to here. And that's 12.5 also. Okay. So we've got our base shelf done, but it's not grouped yet. So I'm going to triple click here, right click, make this a component. Now I should start naming my components. So I'm going to call this corner shelf. Okay. All right. So I'm actually going to make a top that's solid like this also. So let's go ahead and put the material on here. So I'm going to hit B for bucket, hold down my Alt key. That's going to allow me to suck up this material. And then I can use the bucket tool to affix it to this shelf. And now I want to put a shelf in the middle and on the top. And I don't want to have to measure it. And why not do it exactly? So I'm going to click on this. So I've got the component selected, not open, but selected. Hit M for move, click on this top corner, tap my control key to leave a copy behind, come up to this point at the top and click. And now before I do anything else, I'll type in /2 for divide by 2. And now we've got all 3 shelves very quickly. All right, so I think the next thing I would do is to do these little support legs. Let me go back to the plan here. I don't know what you would call these things, but these right here, these 2 items in blue here. So just a piece of plywood that's actually notched into those 3 shelves in this case. There's 2 here, but 3 shelves that we made. We'll make those back legs, maybe you would call them. I'm not sure. John, you got a term for those things?
No, I usually just the top I drop below the top shelf, so the top shelf like sits on top of it, and
Oh.
then bottom I just cut 2 little 3-inch by 3-inch blocks, and it just sits on that little ledge.
Oh, cool.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna, let's see, very quickly draw these 2 pieces. So I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna go, and if you have trouble snapping to something on the bottom like this, snap to what you can snap to. And then, you know, go ahead and give it some thickness. So I'm pushing this back 3/4 of an inch. And now I can very easily pull this down to the bottom, and I'll reference the floor here. And so I wasn't too particular about the dimension here. So I'm going to get my tape measure tool, come in from the side, type in 3, and then push this back to my 3-inch line here. Now I'm going to triple click, right click, make this a component. And now if I want to cut these 3 pieces out, remember they're instances of the same component. So all I really need to do is edit one of them. So I'm double clicking on the top shelf. I'll get a rectangle and trace over that leg that I just made. And then just push this down to there. And that cuts all the way through the piece. And that cuts that little notch out. And you can see that notch has been cut out in the other 2 shelves as well. So now I'm just going to make a copy of this piece. So I'm hitting M for move, tapping control, and I'm going to bring this right here. Actually, if I was really smart, I would I would move it to where I could rotate it and not have to move it again. So let's see if I can do that. So let's see, here's a case where, can I do this with these little red things? No, I can't, because these little controls are going to assume that the pivot point's right in the center. I want the pivot point to be right here. So I'm going to go get my rotate tool, and it's on the axis that I want now. So I click a second time, click a third time, and that rotated it and put it in the spot that I wanted. Okay, and I need to cut this notch here. So double click on the top shelf again, R for rect, trace my rectangle over the top, press P for push pull, push this down, reference the bottom of this shelf. And again, because these other two are components, everything got cut at once. Okay, so that's some support. We also need some support under here. So I'm gonna click on the floor and hide it. So I pressed H for hide. So I'm going to draw something from this kick plate all the way over to the edge of this shelf. Well, not really the kick, but the notch cut for the kick. So I'm getting my rectangle tool and I'm coming over here. And again, I'm going to use that trick where I type in 3/4, comma, enter, P for push pull. I'm going to pull this one all the way over here and get my select tool by pressing space bar, triple click, right click, make component. And now I want to do another piece here that I can attach our actual kick piece of plywood to. So I think I would start on this side here and get my rectangle, click here and here, and type in, I'm already set for 3 inches. So type in comma 3/4, enter, and P for push pull, and pull this all the way over here till it inferences, and then triple click, right click, make component. Okay, so those are some supports and also, you know, some nailers for our kick to actually be attached to. So we're moving right along here. I guess at this point I might, let's see, here's some, you know, scrap wood or low grade plywood, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to hit B for bucket, hold down my Alt key to get my eyedropper. So I get that material, and I'm going to affix that here, 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 and here. Okay. All right. So we've got to put a back on this thing. And the way it's set up right now is I can just put this back over these pieces and into this rabbit right here. I don't have anything to snap to over here, so I'm just going to go to this point and then extrude it, P for push pull this back 1/4 of an inch and press enter. And then I've got a surface where I can pull this back and fit it right in that rabbit joinery. Okay, so ungrouped again. So hit space bar, triple click, right click, make component. And since I'm going to make a copy of this, I might as well color it first. So I'm going to hit bucket, hold down Alt, and put my color on that. And then I'm just going to make a copy and rotate this. So M for move, hit Control, bring this over here. And let's see, if I put it right there, then when I rotate it, it should be in the right spot. So get my rotate tool. And the easiest way to get rotate tool on the right plane is to hover over some other plane that I know is the same, and then I can hold my shift key down. That will lock it in. So now I can click a second time, click a third time. Now this third one, I'm inferencing this this line right here to get it in position. Okay, so very quickly, we've got our back on. Now it's just a matter of putting our doors and face frame. I guess we'll do the face frame first. We'll make our doors and then put in a couple lazy Susans. So face frame, we've got face frame pieces here all set to go. If we had some joinery in it, I'd probably pick this one. So I'll go ahead and do that just in case. So I'm going to click on it to select it, M for move, tap Control to copy it, and move that in place right there. Same thing here. If this had joinery, I'd probably want this one. So M for move, tap Control, move that in place. So now we've got some horizontal pieces to put in. Now these are going to be a little bit different from what we have. So if I copy this piece over, I want to make sure that I make that unique, because otherwise if I resize this, oops, I forgot. I'm going to undo that. I forgot to hit my Control key. Okay. All right. So again, I want to make sure that that's unique. Otherwise I'd be changing this one. So I'm going to double click. Here's where I want to hide the rest of the model. This is why I love this hotkey. So I'm doing a Shift H. Now I can see the side that I want to press pull on. So I'll press P for that. Push this back. Now while I'm editing this component, I can toggle that hide rest of model back on. And I can use it now as a inferencing surface right there. So if you guys haven't set that up as a hotkey, I would highly recommend you doing that and start using it. So now I'm just going to reproduce this a couple of times. This is already a unique component. I'm going to move this down here and then make another copy of it, hit my controller option. In this case, I can't snap because I picked the wrong starting point. So I just put it down and grab the correct starting point and then move it to where I want to go.
And not that it matters, but I don't think you did make it unique because all the parts moved in your old cabinet.
Ah, thank you. Okay, so what I would do in this case, yeah, they did. So thank you for pointing that out. So now I think what I would do is, since these are already sized correctly, I'm going to make these unique over here. So what do we have here? We have, I'm shift clicking on all these door. Oh, you know what? Why not use our tags? So I'm going to go over here to drawer fronts and I'm going to hide the drawer fronts. I'm going to go over here to doors. I'm going to hide the doors. And there is my screw up right there. So that's what happens when you don't make it unique. So to fix the problem, I would click, shift click, and I'm going to make these three unique because I want to change the size of these guys.
So on the other ones too, it's 6 in total.
No, thank you. All right, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, absolutely correct. I want to make all those 6 unique at the same time. So they're all selected. Right click on any one of them, make unique, and then double click and size one of them, and they should all go. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so this time I'll be a little bit more careful. I'm going to copy this. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's get fancy here. We'll copy all 3 pieces at once, put them in position, rotate them, and then make them unique, and then resize them. Okay, so I've got these 3 rails selected. I hit M for move, tap Control for copy. I'm going to deposit them right there. Get my rotate tool, get that on the right plane, the blue plane right there. Click a second time, rotate it in position, third click. Looks like I need to move it over, so M for move. All 3 are still selected. So I'm just moving one and all 3 are moving in the right spot. And now I want to make all 3 unique. All 3 are still selected. Right click on any one of them, make unique, and then double click on any one of them with the select tool. And then press pull. Now, technically, you can press pull this even though I can't see that surface. A lot of times I'll do that. I'll just zoom in and I'll say, okay, I know that surface is right there. And I can actually press pull it without seeing it. Okay. So now I can turn my doors back on, and what else? Drawer fronts back on. Okay. So we're getting there. Now, what I want to do is I want to, let's see, for door handles, we probably want to move this door handle over. So I'm hitting M for move. I'm going to select this right in the center. We do have our guides if this doesn't work, but I think we'll be able to do this. So I'm going to move this over, and now I'm holding down my shift key to lock it on the red axis, coming up to the center of this door style and getting the center constraint there and clicking. So now both of our doors open away from the center cabinet, which is proper, right? I would think. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is there's 5 door parts here. There's 2 styles, there's 2 rails, and there's this middle panel. So I've shift clicked on all of those to select them, hit M for move, tap my control key and move this over. And I might as well put it in the right spot. So let's see, if I butt it right up against that door, the other door, and then move it a second time. Let's see what a 1/2 inch looks like. I think that's right. Yep. Okay, but it's going into the cabinet too far. Okay, so we gotta beware of unique components. Some are not going to be unique, like this style is the same as that style. So I think the first thing I would do is move this style into position. And that's kind of going to dictate where the other pieces, how the other pieces have to be sized. So I'm moving along the green axis. I hold the shift key down so that I can come over here and inference. And now I'm inferencing off of this face frame piece and clicking. And then I can do a second move and say I want to come in 1/4 of an inch from that. Okay, so that's going to define the size of the door. My style is already in place. In this case, I probably want to hide a bunch of stuff. And I'm going to click on this and hit H and come around from the back side here. Let me show you. Remember earlier I said I'm going to group these cabinets, and then I exploded it. At this point, I want to hide these cabinets, and I want to hide. There may be other times where I want to hide these cabinets. I'm done with this cabinet. I'm done copying pieces out of it. So at this point, I want to group these, and then I want to assign it to their own tag by the cabinet name, and then I want to be able to hide it. So I think what I would do to select this, there's a couple different strategies here. Remember, if you go from right to left, anything that I intersect is going to be selected. Okay. But if I go too far, I'm going to select the side of the center cabinet, of the corner cabinet. So what we could do is look straight at it, turn our camera view into parallel projection. Oops. Let me undo that. Okay, so now we're looking straight at it. Now it's going to be easier to select this. So I think I'd actually go in the opposite direction. I'm going to go from left to right. And you see how I'm intersecting parts of the other cabinet, but I'm not totally intersecting them. So they won't get selected. They have to be totally lassoed to be selected. So right now, all I'm getting, and I can confirm this by orbiting around, all I'm getting are those cabinet pieces that I actually want to group together. So now they're all selected. I right click on any one of them and I make that a group. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my tags, and I'm going to make a tag folder. This is just kind of a convenience where you can put other tags inside of a tag folder. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to call this cabinets. And then when this is highlighted, oh, you know what? I'm going to undo that. I'm going to come up to the very top one and do that again. So I selected untagged. I make my folder and I call that cabinets. Okay. So now that cabinets is selected here, when I make a folder, when I make a tag, it's going to go inside that folder. So I'm going to call this right cab. I might as well go ahead and make two other ones here. So I'm going to call this left cab and oops, misspelled that. And one more, center cab. Okay, so I've got three tags that are inside this cabinet folder. They're still independent tags, but what I wanted to show you is that a group can be assigned to a tag and its parts inside, the stuff that's nested inside it, can be assigned to a different tag. So a group is just an entity. It just happens to have other stuff inside of it. So if I go up to my entity info with this, I've got this group selected. I just single clicked on it. So that group is selected. And I go down and I put it in right cab. Okay. Now, if I go over here to tag, I can hide my right cab. Okay. And so I'm going to do the same here very quickly. Then I'm going to show you the benefit of doing that. So we'll look straight at this side. I'm going to do the same kind of selection technique where I go a little bit too far to make sure I've got all of these guys. I'm going to right click. I'll make this a group. And then I'm going to assign this group to my left cab. And now I can hide the left cab, hide the right cab. So now we've got a better working environment. I'm going to go back to perspective camera view. All right, so let me finish the doors and then I'll show you why that's of benefit. Okay, so these pieces are all going to be sized independently. So I'm going to pick these two guys, right click, make these unique, and then double click on one of them, pull it up to the top of the face frame, and then come down a 1/4 inch off of that. Okay, right click and close. Now here's my rail. I'm going to move the rail first into position. So I'll move it up here. And now I'm going to swing around. I've got two rails here, so I'm going to select both of them by shift clicking on it. Right click, make this unique. I'll double click on this one because this one's nicely in view. And here's the situation where we've got joinery. So I could press pull this, and then press pull this, and then press pull this. But instead, what I'm going to do is just undo. I'm going to click with my select tool, shift click, shift click. So I've got really the three faces that compose that joinery, and do an M for move and just move those faces. So it's kind of simulating press pull. And now I can just see exactly where I want to put it, which is right there. Okay, and the bottom one did its own thing too. So that's all well and good. Now the only other thing we need to do is to size this panel. We can use that same trick that we just used. So I'm going to double click on the panel. I'm going to do a hide rest of model just to show you what's going on here a little bit better. I'm going to click in this face. I'm going to shift click in this face. And now when I do an M for move, I'm moving that panel, but I'm not distorting the raised panel. It's all moving properly. So I'm going to hit Shift H to see the rest of the model. And I'm going to try to get right in the right position. Actually, what I should have done, I'm going to click there. I've still got those two surfaces selected. So I'm gonna click right here because I can deposit that right against this face right here. So I'm gonna move, I hold down my shift key and then just inference this face right here. So that horizontal dimension is proper now. Now I got to do the same trick vertically. So I'm going to click, which unselected those other two faces, and shift click here. And now I'll be a little bit smarter when I move. If I get this point right here as the point that I'm moving from, I can go straight up. And as soon as I hit that rail, that's where I want to inference off. So I wonder if I made that unique. I don't think I did. Closed group. Okay. Well, let's see. So if we turn our cabinets back on, okay, I did. Good. Okay, right cabinet. All right. So do you see now that we can very quickly turn these cabinets on and off, which is very handy. And now all we have to do is take this door, all 5 parts of this door. So I'm shift clicking on all 5 parts, and I'm going to do an M for move, tap control, put this in position. While it's still selected, get my rotate tool, get on the right plane here with my rotate tool, which is the blue plane. Click a second time, bring this around, and it looks like I need to move this. So everything's still selected. So I hit my space bar, M for move this out. I can actually go too far here and then get this point and move it back and snap it right there. So now I've got my doors in place. I can copy one of these over. Now here, see, here's why I don't like doing embedded groups. To get that handle, I can't click on that handle. That's the group. So I've got to double click, open the group, then single click on the handle. And now I've got to get it outside the group. If I just move this or make a copy of it, I'm making a copy inside the group. That's not what I want. So I'm going to do a Control-C copy, right click to close the group, and then do a Control-V to paste it. And here's my handle. And now I have to position the handle. Oops. We'll get that sort of in the right spot. I think for this, we probably want it up here somewhere. Where'd it go? There it is. All right. So, all right. So there's our corner cabinet. Do you want to see a quick lazy Susan? All right. So I think what I would do is try to get a rough center here. So this shelf, if we come over here, 41.5. So let's say I'm going to come in 20 inches here with a guideline, and I'm going to come in from this side the same distance. So 20 inches here. Okay. So that's going to be the center of a circle that I'm going to make for the lazy Susan. So I'm going to hit C for circle, click in that center, and looks like I can fit something that's maybe, let's see, I'll type in 18-inch for my radius. Looks like I can go a little bit bigger, 19-inch. All right, let's do 19-inch. All right, so I'm going to do a push-pull and pull this surface up. And let's say, well, let's say 2 inches. Because I'm actually going to carve this out. I'm going to make another circle in the center and push it down. But before we do that, let's cut this notch out of it. So if I come in from this, I just want to come in horizontally to this line here. So I'm getting my tape and I'm trying to pull off of there, which is not working for me. Let's see. How did I do this? All right, well, I guess another way I could do this is come straight out this way. No, I don't want to do that. Oops. I have no idea what I just did there. I hit some hotkey that is showing all sorts of hidden stuff.
I think that's the show hidden objects.
Where is that? Do you know?
Like Cat was saying, is it under view? Are you on view right now?
I'm on view.
Yeah.
Scene, section cut axis, edge style. Profile. Oh, back edges. Here it is. Thanks. Panicking there. All right. I guess what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to get the middle here again. And okay. So now that I've established the middle, I could come in with a line from here. And let's say I'm coming in 6 inches and I'm going to come in 6 inches here. So now, did I group this? I didn't group this yet. So I'm going to triple click, right click, and I'm going to make this a component. Okay. So now the reason I did that is now when I double click on it, I can do a shift hide rest of model. But the downside is I lost my guidelines. So let me put those back in. So quick guideline here and here. Then I want to see how far I want to come in. So I'm going to do a tape from there, tape from there. Okay, so that's the cut that I want to do. So I'm just going to cut this little notch out here and here. I'll get my press pull and get rid of that. And I'm going to erase these lines here. And so now I'm going to use the offset tool and offset in, let's say 1 inch, and then do a press pull and push this down 1 inch. And that sort of is quick and dirty Lazy Susan inside that cabinet. You know, if you want one on the other, let's take a back. I'm going to hide one of these back pieces. I'll just copy this straight down. Hit my up arrow to establish my vertical direction. And that's in the right spot, except that I went down too far. So I'm just going to go straight up and then, oops, if I can get the bottom of this, I'll go straight up, click, then come straight down and inference off the bottom. Oops, kind of going side to side there, but anyway, you get the idea. So that took a little bit of time, but anyway, that's a corner cabinet. Kind of deep, kind of big, but seems to work. So didn't get through everything I wanted to get to, but any questions? Well,
It's
this
been
is the
great,
last-
Ben. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ben.
Hope you got something out of it. And if you run into problems, feel free to reach out. Be glad to help you.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure I put this video up so you'll have this.
Good.
And you know, there's tons of other good videos. No, tons of good videos, not other good videos. There's actual good videos out there. If you search on just about anything in YouTube, you know, SketchUp, you know, whatever you're struggling with, you'll find some good videos. So plenty of materials there. I think it's just a matter of practicing this stuff and doing it enough. When it starts to become second nature, that's when it's kind of fun, where you're thinking more about the design than actually using SketchUp. So when you get to that level, it really becomes a lot of fun. So I hope you stick with it.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank
All
you.
right.
That was
Thanks a lot,
wonderful,
Ben.
Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely
All right.
fantastic. Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.